Hi guys, how are you? I made this video for my auditing friends, those doing 3702 and 376 something, that new module, the new curricula, depending on when you're watching this video. But it's mainly for those who are doing external auditing. And we're talking today about finalizing an audit. So finalizing an audit is one of those chapters that at most you have to get total marks because it's the mostly straightforward. Remember, in auditing, you have to remember that we have a certain language that we use, and you have to stick to that language, because if you don't stick to that language, you're not going to get any marks. So you need to stick to a certain tone or certain words that you have to keep on using, which are consistent to the auditing standards and stuff. So when you're talking about finalizing an audit, right, remember, you get to, I noticed a lot of students get carried away. They get carried away in the studies that they forget that the whole idea with them being there as an external auditor is to offer an opinion. So you're going to be offering an opinion, and remember, someone is going to make an investment decision, someone is going to make a judgment about a certain company because of your opinion. So if you're going to be giving out that opinion, you have to be sure that the things that are being done there are accurate, the things that are being done there are correct, and they are consistent with accounting standards. So that's where that whole thing, that line comes into play. Unfortunately, you can't get creative. They need you to say that the financial statements fairly present in all material aspects as in accordance to the international standards of accounting. And I think it's in your books, your accounting standards, your auditing standards, sorry, and your study guide. There is an example of the format of how they want you to put to formalize, to write your opinion. It's updated yearly or as they keep on changing, but that one you have to read and try and rewrite it the way it is, like in either your study guide or your auditing standards. So there are going to be material misstatements, right? There are going to be misstatements. Remember, misstatement can be caused either by a fraud aspect, it can be caused even by a mistake or something. So you now have identified a mistake, or you haven't identified, let's say the beginning. If there is no mistake, then definitely it's called an unmodified opinion. That's where you just write, we have audited the books, and in our opinion, the books of XYZ company fairly present in all material aspects in accordance to IFRS, blah, blah, blah. Then it's just one paragraph. There's no basis. You just put that one paragraph. Then let's say we're dealing with a case where there is a misstatement. So when there's a misstatement, that's where we have a bit of problems. We have problems that we just have to quickly address so that you don't get challenges, right? So you've identified a misstatement, right? So that misstatement comes in forms of two, right? Like it can either be one or it can either be either or, right? So the misstatement can either be pervasive or the misstatement can be non-pervasive. So what does pervasive mean? Like, what does pervasive mean? Because some of these words, if you have the meanings of them, then it won't be very confusing. In my own opinion, pervasive becomes like a dominoes effect, right? A dominoes effect. Now that you have identified that there is a problem, you have to now ask yourself, does this problem affect other things? Or does this mistake make other accounts or other statements wrong? If it makes other statements or other accounts wrong, then it becomes pervasive. If it doesn't, it becomes non-pervasive. That's what it means. So according to me, in my own understanding, the word pervasive has everything to do with the dominoes effect. So if one thing is going to affect the next thing, affects the next thing, affects the next thing, it's pervasive. If it's not going to affect the next thing, then in my opinion, it's called a non-pervasive. So let's start with the non-pervasive part, right? So the non-pervasive misstatement, right, is going to be from, you're going to come, when you identify a non-pervasive misstatement, it's going to be caused by two things again, right? It's either you're going to have a disagreement with management over a certain thing, or a limitation of scope. Limitation of scope is simply saying you can audit the entire house, just don't get into the bedroom. So if someone tells you that, you can't then give an opinion on what's in the bedroom because you're not there, right? So that automatically on its own then goes on to create what they call a limitation of scope. So those two things cause your misstatements. It's either you disagreed or there was a limitation of scope item, right? But that limitation of scope item or the disagreement that you had with management regarding it can be a calculation, it can be anything, right? If it doesn't affect other things, then definitely you have to now give a modified opinion, which is called except for. Right? You're just saying except for 1, 2, 3 things. Everything is okay except for that part. Right? That's how the except for thing happens. Remember, for you to give an except for opinion, the misstatement has to be non-pervasive, right? But now, if the misstatement is pervasive, for instance, if you have a disagreement on the inventory calculation, right? Inventory is going to affect your cost of sales. Cost of sales is going to affect your gross profit. Gross profit is going to affect your net profit. Net profit is going to affect your the amount which is going to be transferred to your capital or your statement of changes in equity is going to affect the equity on your financial position statement. So then that is one good, very, very pervasive item. Then what then do you do when you're given a pervasive item? When you're given a pervasive item, again, it's going to be caused by two things. It's either going to be a limitation or you're going to disagree. Someone will be applying LIFO, and when you're saying, no, it's actually supposed to be FIFO or weighted average, or the calculations aren't the same. So in such an instance, you now have to give what they call an adverse opinion, right? You have to give what they're calling an adverse opinion. An adverse opinion is being given because there are inconsistencies with the way that they're doing things. Remember, you have done accounting, you know how these things are supposed to be done. And these are people who sometimes don't even have the accounting background, but they're trying to coach you on how to do the things. So now that you have a disagreement, you now have to give them an adverse of opinion. And the basis of the adverse opinion is because it's pervasive. Don't forget. The basis of the adverse opinion is because it's a pervasive mistake, right? Because it's pervasive. That's why you're giving an adverse. It's not just you're just giving an adverse of opinion. No, you're giving the adverse because it's pervasive. That mistake is bound to affect other things. That's why you're giving them an adverse of opinion. But if there's a limitation of scope, let's say they want you to give an opinion on something and then their financial records were utterly destroyed and you couldn't. That's when you give the disclaimer opinion, right? So disclaimer is when you cannot even perform the audit at all. That's where you give the disclaimer opinion. But in my own opinion, yeah, that's pretty much it. Except for it's non-pervasive. Adverse, it's a pervasive. It's going to affect other things. That's why you're giving the person an adverse opinion. Disclaimer, you can't even do a thing at all. So basically, that's pretty much it about finalizing an audit. It's pretty much very easy. Like, it's really the part of the exam that you really have to try and mark as much as you can to get all the marks, because it's straightforward. If you follow what I've just told you, it becomes very straightforward. Very, very straightforward. And remember, don't wear a cap when you're doing auditing. Open your mind. Encrypt your knowledge of FAC. Encrypt your knowledge of add it to it. Add to your knowledge of wara. Bring it out. Bring out the knowledge of FAC. Bring out your knowledge of management accounting. Bring out all those knowledge and try to visualize how the whole thing is going to be playing out. But it's not really one of the most complicated chapters. It's really one of the most enjoyable parts of auditing. You have to complete the audit and make sure that you get it and you get all your marks. Remember, you're there to give an audit opinion. So if you're going to be giving an opinion, at the end of the day, someone is going to make a decision, not because what they understand what's in front of them, but because you signed for it. So before you make any signature, you really have to really be thorough and make sure that you understand. That's it. Enjoy your studies and all the best with your examination. Thank you so much.